here. I don't want to leave. I gave all my time, I'm a best boy. Learning from the TV and I keep it on my chest, boy. I spend all my time in the bitch club.
Been here for a while, what's the question? I don't wanna talk to your best friend. I don't gotta lie, pick the best one. I'm done.
Hello and welcome. That was Burbank House by Tsubi Club, and this is the Giant World of Baseball podcast, a podcast about international baseball and sometimes the San Francisco Giants. I'm your host, the Frilled Shark, or Jacob if you please. In this episode, I once again join my friend, 54% enjoyer, and the international baseball news dude, Jeff Duda, to break down and make our official predictions for the 2025 WBCQ Pool A. Let's get it. Jeff, it's been a pretty interesting couple weeks here in the international baseball news cycle, with all your coverage of the various winter leagues and Caribbean series, right?
Yeah, now is like the 1 week of the year where there's no professional baseball being played basically anywhere.
Yeah, I think we get the is the Baseball United thing.
Yeah, then next weekend, I guess. Yeah, that's their first exhibition series with only with two teams instead of the four, which I don't know what's going on there, but that's just the way it is. But yeah, and then 20 players from 22 different countries. Nice to see players from like Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh are there. I mean, obviously they're going to be probably a bit outmatched, but
Yeah, I mean they probably won't have to contend with Christian Bayers. He's off in Taiwan or in South
yeah,
Africa training, I guess.
yeah. It's the timing of it is bizarre to say the least, because I don't know why they didn't just do it, and I guess they didn't want to try to compete with the winter leagues, but if World Baseball Classic qualifiers coming up, and you're not gonna have players from like South Africa, and I don't think they have anyone from like Nicaragua or China or anything like that, but it just seems like a pretty weird timing.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't even see anything about it. Like, am I just out of touch? Did I just miss their advertising for it, or
They don't do much promotion. It's
okay?
basically, and like they don't get. I feel like they don't get very many actual interactions on social media.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
it's basically I have to like catch it in passing somehow, and
Yeah,
but so that's the only professional baseball, and then Nicaragua and Australia are playing they're playing friendlies this week.
yep. Australia is playing the Hanwha, I think the Hanwha
Yeah,
Eagles, right?
yeah, second year in a row. Yeah.
Yeah. That's that's interesting. I'm interested to see how those games go because I don't think are there really. I think both the Wells brothers are on that
Yeah.
Australian team.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of players that are on Australia's main roster are going to be there. I think only
Yeah.
one who probably won't be there right now that was on it was Blake Townsend because he got signed by the Pirates today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he'll go to, and I think he's in Double A, so I think he'll probably be at their like a non-roster invitee.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then last year like Hanwha had most of their top guys playing in that series, so they'll probably do that again. So that's good. And then I'm just curious what the KBO is going to do for the Caribbean series next year.
The Italian Caribbean series.
I thought like I had posted, I was just like well-known Caribbean nations, Korea and Italy.
Hey, at least Sicily is an island, right?
Yeah, I guess there's like it's an island. Caribbean has a lot of islands, so basically the same thing.
Yeah. What if we
But
just drive Sicily? We just take Sicily and we move it next to the Dominican Republic.
right, they're just like, see, that's a Caribbean country, but but I mean the KBO is pretty involved, so I imagine they're not going to send a really weak team, but it's also spring training, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
They're not gonna send the Japan breeze of the KBO.
yeah, they're not gonna send a Japan breeze, but they're also like, I feel like it's their top like pitchers might not be pitching, or if they pitch, it's one inning.
Right.
Yeah, because that was why I'm always like, if you're in a winter league, why wouldn't you just invite other winter leagues and leave it at that? Like players are already in form, and
Right.
it's not like rushing to get them ready.
Yeah.
It's very weird, but I guess it's one way to go about it. so that's basically it for baseball right now until the is there spring training games before the qualifier? Maybe a couple.
Ooh, that's a good question. The
Like
first one apparently is February 20th between the Cubs and Dodgers.
okay, that's literally the same day as the qualifier. Okay. But it's so really just looking forward to the qualifiers now. It's only real meaningful baseball we get until MLB's opening day.
Yeah. Or I mean, I guess the Tokyo
Yeah, I guess that
series
starts a little early, yeah. But
technically counts for something. I'll get my fantasy points from Otani from that probably.
yeah, and it's I know the Cubs announced pretty shocking news that Shota Imanaga was going to start one of the games.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, thanks for that,
Like,
guys.
wow, the Japanese pitcher in your starting rotation is going to start in the Japan series. I'm stunned.
I wonder if they'll start Yamamoto and Sasaki. I think they should. I don't know if they will though.
I think because Otani's not going to be ready to start.
No, he's
I think he
not.
said May. So I imagine they're going to probably. I think they'll throw probably Roki in that game. Just I'm sure MLB is going to drop some hints.
Yeah, yeah. I can't believe they would sign him and then be like, nope, you can't pull a Kikuchi and debut in Tokyo. It's time for Blake Snell to start randomly and like walk
Right.
9 people.
It's very very much like oh it's like you guys should probably start Roki and they're like I don't know if we want to put him in there a lot of pressure like it'd be really cool if you did though.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine all those tickets that we could sell.
But I mean Otani's obviously going to be like the main attraction though.
Yeah. So yeah, basically it's just the WBC qualifiers coming up. And today we're going to be talking about Pool A because we have all of the rosters, barring some probably last minute minor changes, finalized for Pool A. As a reminder, Pool A will be held in Taipei, Taiwan, at the new Taipei Dome. And the teams competing are Chinese Taipei, or Taiwan, Nicaragua, Spain, and South Africa. They will play a round robin. The top team will automatically advance to the WBC, and then the middle two ranked teams will play a one game loser go home, winner qualifies game. And Jeff, we haven't really, I mean, we've been texting a bit, but I'm interested to hear like what are your thoughts so far, like just overall like thoughts on the roster composition and kind of how things are shaping up already.
Yeah, I mean rosters right now. I mean for me this is very much like Taiwan is so clearly better than everyone else in the pool. Like if Taiwan doesn't finish in first after pool play, that's already a major upset. And if they don't qualify at all, that's like insane because I mean their pitching is just on another level than the rest of the pool. And to me, that's because there's no offense really in this pool that's going to be really potent. If you have a pitching staff that is just deep and has a lot of high level arms, I can't see them being beaten. And then South Africa, yeah, I mean that it's gonna be a struggle because they're very limited offensively. I mean, Christian Byers going to be their best hitter, and they have some young guys who, had one in particular, Luke November. He had a pretty good under 23 tournament, but he didn't really show power. He was kind of he had a couple doubles, but you know, he's not a hitter that really they're going to fear in the lineup. And other than that, it's kind of bare.
Yeah.
So I look at that first game for South Africa against Nicaragua. Dylan Unsworth, they only got him for 65 pitches. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's
Did they reduce the pitch counts from
no, that's the
last
same.
time? Okay, it's the
The
same.
qualifiers were in September and October last time, so it was 85 because they had already gone through their seasons. So now that it's in the spring, it's only 65. So same with WBC. So the starting pitching isn't going to be as it can't carry really a team as much as maybe like a qualifier would later in the year. So you're only going to get maybe 5 at most, and if he's really economical, it pitches into the 6. But they're gonna have to get some big innings from their bullpen, and it's gonna be tough
Yeah. Like you just
because
look at the bullpen and you're like, okay, who? Because like every decent pitcher on this South African squad, you figure is going to be starting a game. like
Yeah.
Joshua Tribe, who I talked a little about in my potential rosters video, who, he made the team and I was like, oh, I got that one right. And I'm like, okay, so he's gonna start, right? And then he's like the 3 starter maybe, but then he's not available in the bullpen. And who's the 4th starter?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be tough. And the thing is one thing you really notice about South Africa, they don't have velocity.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
I
Josh
don't
Tribe was in the under 23 World Cup. He was throwing 84, 85.
yeah. He pitched that game they beat Great Britain in though, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's it when like I look at like when they face his offenses, they're facing pros, guys who've been pros, the guys who see velocity a lot more. And if this guy's throwing fastballs at 85 and he's seeing someone like Felix Stevens who can hit a ball like 450 feet, and these guys are seeing 96, 97 in the pros, I'm like, he's gonna have to be really like picture perfect with command.
Yeah.
And I'm just like it's just so hard to see them shutting down other offenses or because they're not going to score 5, 6, 7 runs. Like they'd have to win games like 3-2, 4-3 to have a shot, and it's going to be really tough. And then you look at Nicaragua. I got to say they got really unlucky, just
Yeah, yeah. I
insanely
think
unlucky. Like they had like 8, 9 pitchers get denied. Like Oscar Reyes was one of their best pitchers in the minors, was approved, and then they were going to have him throw 40 pitches max. And then the Royals said, "No, thank you.
oh my God.
We're going to keep him under our watch, basically in minor league camp." And that hurts them a lot because they they really only have about 3 starters that you can say you could see that they could get quite a bit from, and then in the bullpen, there's really only maybe 2 or 3 guys who you kind of are known commodities that you can expect to like pitch relatively well in this environment. And then after that, it's basically praying
Yeah, yeah.
because they have a lot of older guys like like um uh Carlos Tejer, who's one of their more successful guys, but I think he's like 37, 38. And I think for them they're going to be have to be very careful which game they pitch which guys as in the rotation because like Ronald Madrano is going to be their ace and they can't really just waste him against South Africa
No, they cannot use him against South Africa.
because if you know, he maxes out over 50 pitches and can't go again. And then you're like, so wait, we got to beat Spain at least once to advance. If he's gone, then your options are pretty limited. So I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how they approach it because I think be a lot more careful than like Taiwan and Spain really only has like 2 guys that I would classify as like starters who are going to be able to give you quite a bit. And then after that, it's kind of you're patching it together. So, and then Nicaragua's offense, they have like about 3 guys who can give you a little bit of thump. And then after that is not a whole lot. I think this is a little bit of roster than they had last time, but not by a ton. So they're going to have to kind of win the same way they won last time, which is
Just
pitching, carrying them, and getting
eking
just
out,
enough offense.
yeah, just eking out those wins. And yeah, like you said, I'm not really sure they're going to be able to eke out those wins with the more limited pitch counts, and considering how unlucky they got with some of those denials. But hey, they got Duke Hebert. Guys,
Oh,
they got
actually, they
Duke
don't. They don't have him. That was I actually the what's his name Fernando Rayo told me that wasn't confirmed that it was a rumor, and that's why I didn't say it was like factual. I just said according to this.
Okay.
So he did not he's not gonna be on the team.
Okay. Well,
So they have less. It's and then Chase Dawson who played for them in their winter league. It looked like he's gonna get approved for
yeah,
his
I think I
citizenship
saw
in
I think
time.
I saw somewhere that he got approval.
So he's going to be on the roster, and that's actually going to help quite a bit because he'll start in center, and then they got Juan Montez who'll be in right, and they kind of have a little more hitting capability with him in there.
Mhm.
So I mean that'll help a little, but they are going to have to. I think they're going to have to steal some bases. They're going to have to. I don't want to say small ball, but they're going to have to find a way to scratch and claw some runs out because other than I would say probably Emmanuel Trillo, they don't have a lot of like power in the lineup. Like like when you just watch the series of the Americas, he was basically their only power source. I think Brandon Layton, I think, had a couple home runs, but he kind of was only so in their winter league. Like he's not really a consistent guy who's going to provide a lot of pop. So Trio is like the only really big power source. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to honestly go deep a couple of times because
Yeah, I
they
mean,
pretty limited.
Elian Rayo has hit some. He has hit for power at times, like in the ACL. Um, so against like lower velocity, he might be able to give you some power.
He's they're gonna need him in like early season 2024 version.
Yeah,
He had
yeah.
some good moments and then he had a pretty rough finish to the season. So
Mhm.
they're gonna need something from him, and then Elion Miranda they're gonna need something from. But I mean, you look at I think losing Chesler Cuthbert hurt quite a
Yeah,
bit
yeah,
because
definitely.
they just don't have guys who have seen a lot of high level pitching outside of their winter league, and so it's when you're facing someone like Taiwan whose starters are pumping 97, 98, and and nasty breaking balls, like it can get a little dicey, especially when I mean they were getting shut down by like Curacao and Panama in the series of the Americas in a couple of those games, and it was just like, yeesh, it's gonna get a little dicey.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you hope Freddie Zamora can find something and turn back the clock a little
Yeah,
bit.
Freddie Zamora, the thing with him is his value is like defense, so
Yeah.
that's got kind of he's never really been that like a real difference maker with the bat. It's usually he's just a really really high level defensive shortstop, but he hasn't reached the big leagues because of
Yeah.
his limited bat, and so it's gonna be tough. But I think pitching, that's gonna be a difference. Like I touched on Ronald Madrana, but Kenward Burton, he had some really good moments in the Winter League when they moved him into the starting rotation. I think it was with I want to say Bower. I can't remember which team he plays for, but they moved him into the starting rotation, and he pitched pretty well. He had a game where against I think it was the champs where he struck out 7 or 8 in like 6 innings. So I would guess he's gonna be the third starter, and then JC Ramirez will be their number 2. But
Yeah.
I'm guessing Burton's gonna start against South Africa, and then they'll save JC Ramirez for one of the other 2 games. But I don't know what they're gonna do. Like you don't want to give away a game in
Yeah.
the pool, but you also don't want to, kind of not have someone left for the final game if you don't win finishing first.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting how they do it. And then we talk about Spain. I'll tell you what, Spain's pitching. I've seen some people like calling them favorites.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Look
was like,
out,
no,
and good
you
roster.
cannot call these people favorites.
I'm like, are we looking at the same roster? Like, Elion Leyva, I'm sure he'll be their ace and pitch well. But I mean, once you get beyond like Elion Leyva, like they have a lot of like older pitchers
Yeah.
who have not had a lot of success recently. And I look at like last year in the Honk Ball Week, a lot of these guys really struggled, and that wasn't those were not like the WBC team for the Netherlands, or they're facing U.S. junior college players
Yeah.
and young guys from Japan and Taiwan who won't even necessarily be an MVP. And is that right? Yeah, I won't even be there as starting this year. So I'm like, I'd be a little more cautious
Yeah.
with pumping their tires on this.
Yeah. People just being like, oh, they're favorites to qualify. I'm like, no, no, you can't say that's not true.
I feel
um
like they look at favorites as like they just look at like the flag next to the person's name. There's like, oh, he's from Dominican Republic. Oh, he's from Venezuela. So obviously he can go. Like he's gonna be able to contribute. But it's like that's not the way it works. Like
Yeah.
I
I think I might like their pitching a little bit more than you because like Joanna Negrin had a good year, even though he's like 40 years old. He had a good year in Mexico in 2024.
I think for me, I feel like I don't know, something about me just feels like early in the season, older arm, and it's I don't know, I just I feel like they could pitch all right and decently, but also I feel like also they have a lot of arms who are like guys who I've seen that are kind of homer prone,
Yeah.
and it's like Yohanner Negrin, like he pitched, I think it was from the Venezuelan Winter League, and struggled a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
I think one of the things that I notice about their pitching is they don't have a lot of swing and miss guys.
Yeah, yeah. I
They have a
mean,
lot of pitch to contact guys, whereas I feel like some of the other teams you're gonna get more swing and miss.
yeah, which might play better. Like for instance, Orlando Rodriguez, he pitched in indie ball, I think, right?
Yeah.
He had a not good strikeout rate. And he's like one of your youngest starting pitchers.
What's troubling for me is I feel like they had guys who play in their local league in Spain, who a lot of these guys do, but and who are Spanish people that grew up in Spain that could have been on this roster.
Yeah,
And I'm always baffled when you have two guys basically that are equal at this point in their careers. Why you would choose not to take the guy who's grew up there, came through your youth system? Because I look at someone like Mark Civet and some of these other guys on the roster, and I was like, can somebody explain to me what the difference is between them? I mean,
yeah,
I'm not seeing it. Like he had a good year in Italy. He's pitched for Spain, and he's actually been one of the few guys to actually get some swing and miss. Like he's not going to be a huge swing and miss guy, but he's a lefty. He gives you another dimension. I think one, is it
they
maybe
have one
one or
lefty.
two?
Yeah, they have
One
one.
lefty. I was like, I don't understand the roster composition because I look at like a lot of Taiwan's better hitters aside from Yu Chang, they're left-hand hitters. Like why wouldn't you want to bring more left-handed options who can go multiple innings and can kind of give you another dimension? You look at probably doesn't matter too much of South Africa, but I mean he's someone who can give you innings against Nicaragua. But it feels like they're kind of going with we're just gonna kind of build almost the same roster that we built for the European Championship, and then we're
Yeah, yeah.
back up. But he
It's
also
very
played
similar.
really bad at Honk Ball Week. Like that was not a good showing at all.
Did they go winless or did they beat Italy? I can't remember.
I think they lost to Italy, if I remember.
I should probably know this. It's in my channel trailer. Or like marks of it pitching in that game is in my channel trailer. I'm just so baffled by why there's somehow less Spanish born players this time around.
Oh, they
And
beat Italy. Never mind. Okay.
they beat Italy? Okay.
And that
And
was in the fifth, sixth place game, I think. So let me see if they beat them in the. I know they played in the group stage. So let me just find the game.
I just like, and I look at who the one Spanish representative is. Like the one Spanish born person, it's like it's Pablo Balboa, right?
Yeah. So I looked it up. Italy in the group stage beat them 10-3. They went 0-5 in the
Great.
group stage. Only game they won was kind of the fifth, sixth place game against Italy, where Italy probably wasn't super motivated.
Yeah, who started that game? Sorry, I mean Jorge Balboa, not Pablo Balboa. And Jorge Balboa, he's like a 39-year-old, right? He's like not young.
Jorge Balboa started the game they lost in the group stage against Italy.
Dang, that's tough.
Yeah, he's Jorge Balboa. He's their number two. I would be stunned if he's not. But I mean, just like looking at their statistics from, I'll look more at the pitching necessarily than the hitting. Like Pablo Guillen, Jorge Balboa, and Orlando Rodriguez are going to probably be, I would guess, they're three of their four guys around Elian Leyva. But I mean, you look at some of their numbers, like 6.75 ERA for Balboa, 5.06 for Fernando Baez. Orlando Rodriguez had a 7.7, Carlos Sierra 9. Like I don't know, it's tough.
Yeah, yeah. I think Pablo Guillen pitched pretty well at the European Championships they won, though. I remember that.
Yeah. It's I feel like I don't know why it feels like that tournament was like 4 years ago now,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's I think for Spain, I think not having Omar Hernandez and not having what's the Cincinnati Reds infielder? Can't remember his name.
Noelvi Marte.
Yeah, Noelvi Marte. Not having him, those are pretty big blows. Like
Jeff, your team literally traded him.
I couldn't think of it at the time, but it's no Noelvi Marte. Like he hasn't had the success since he since came back from suspension. But I mean, his metrics, he still has some positives in his metrics, like that there could be a bounce back at some point. So I mean, like not having him hurt, and then you just kind of look at. I feel like just like Felix Stevens is like really him and Andres Angelo are like probably the main two guys that they're going to count on, and hopefully Carlos Colmenares can kind of give him a little extra offensively. But I mean, I didn't have him originally making the team, but their center fielder Angel Beltre, I was a little surprised he made this team.
Yeah, no,
Honestly,
I didn't include him in my original potential roster. I was like, he's like 40 years old, and like, why would you?
he's 40 years old and he's really like struggled. Like he struggled in Honkball Week. He played in Lidum and really struggled. And I was a little surprised he made it. And
Yeah,
I think
where's Justin Connell when you need him?
yeah, I don't know where he is. I mean, I figured he was available, so I don't know what happened there. And then I think Roybert DeSena, who's performed well for them. I don't think he made this team, and so it's a lot of they're bringing a lot of guys who didn't really perform well at Honkball Week, but they played well at the European Championship. So I'm guessing they're hoping that they can kind of recreate that. But
Yeah, I'm just so puzzled by their roster construction. Like, I don't like what, why is Emil Morales not here? Why is Peter Bonilla not here? Like, did the Dodgers block him? It has to be that, right?
yeah,
It,
I would guess, but the Dodgers also let him pitch
right,
at
because
the
that's what I
Euros.
was like. I was like, they let him play at the Euros. Why wouldn't they let him play here?
My guess is they probably just said, you're not ready for this, but I don't know. It's hard to believe. And well, but the thing is like there's not a lot of transparency, so we don't know who they ask because they never say it.
Well, I know they didn't ask Yari Perez because I asked him, and
Yeah, that to
he
me
told
that made no sense.
I was like, this guy throws harder than every single pitcher you have on your roster. Literally every single one of them, he sits. His sitting velocity is like 5 miles an hour faster than them, and he's not here.
So that's why, tell you what, like I said, people calling them favorites. I don't see it. I mean, it's gonna be close to them in Nicaragua because they're both deeply flawed
Yeah.
teams. Nicaragua, and they have guys who can throw 93, 94, 95. They have guys who are going to be able to have some length, and they're not relying on too many older guys. They have some in the bullpen, like I mentioned, but they have guys in the rotation who I believe in a little more. And even like Elian Leyva, he's really a guy who's pitched 88, 89 now. He's
Yeah.
not a guy who pitches 93, 94 anymore. So it's going to be they're a lot like South Africa in that they don't have a ton of velocity. And I'm always cautious over teams who don't have a ton of velocity because these are games where it's like I look at like the playoffs in Major League Baseball. You're not going to string together a ton of super long rallies where you're
Yeah.
going to get 4 or 5 runs. Like you're going to get beat on home runs. And guys with low velocity, it's early in the year. They may not be as sharp as they would be in the summer. I feel like it's a recipe to kind of get beat on the home run ball. And I would say Spain and South Africa are more vulnerable to that than Nicaragua is.
Yeah.
And obviously, I look at Taiwan; they're going to roll out of bed and probably throw like 7 or 8 shutout innings.
Yeah,
So,
probably.
so I mean, it's definitely a pool where I think South Africa's lucky that they kind of get a couple teams who got guys blocked by their teams.
Yeah, yeah.
Because otherwise, they would have really hard trouble competing, and so
Yeah, I guess that's another question I had was I was watching the Baseball International video where he was previewing South Africa's roster and he's like, they might have a chance at qualifying here. I was like, really? And you bring up a good point where like all of these absences on these other teams. Do you think South Africa actually might be able to like somehow eke their way into third place?
I'm gonna say this. I don't see it as out of the realm of possibilities. At first game for them, I think they gotta have Dylan Unsworth on the mound. That's the only I feel like that's the game because Nicaragua's ceiling offensively is gonna probably be a little lower than Spain and Taiwan, even though I think their pitching is gonna be higher than Spain. I think Dylan Unsworth comes in, he gives you 5 innings. You go to the pen, and they're probably not gonna have Ronald Madrano start that game. So you're going up against maybe their number 3. offensively, Christian Byers runs into one. I think there's a chance we're looking at a 2-2 game in the 8th inning. In that situation, anything can happen. Nicaragua feeling the pressure, boots a ball, you know, throws a pick off for an error. Suddenly you got a man at third, nobody out in like the 9th inning in a tie game, and all of a sudden it's getting crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. Like I don't see Nicaragua just rolling in that game and they're up 9-1 in the 8th. Like that's not gonna happen.
Yeah. I
So
like I think of last qualifier, like I'm pretty sure every single like first game for teams in the last qualifier was like they were not performing as expected. Like Spain almost lost to South Africa. And those teams are very similar to what they were back then.
yeah, South Africa that game, they had a tying run on base in the 9th inning.
Yeah.
So it was
Like
so
like
they
Brazil totally collapsed. Like Gabriel Barbosa didn't have a moment. I guess he
yeah,
had a bad moment.
I think yeah, that's one thing about these tournaments because these teams are so closely matched that one game is not anything does not have it's not like a something that's gonna continue in the next matchup. Like that Nicaragua Brazil, if they played a 7 game series, it probably goes 7.
Yeah.
Like because neither of those offenses scare you, and it was they were almost the exact same game but reversed. Like one team just wasn't doing anything offensively all game,
Yeah.
and the other teams kind of kicked and they were kicking the ball around on defense, and then the other teams just kind of squeeze plays and sack flies and just barely getting runs across. Like they were the same game, just reversed.
Right,
So I
right,
mean,
right.
that's where you look at these matchups. Like I could see a scenario where South Africa beats Nicaragua game 1, and then all of a sudden it is chaos because you're like, okay, we might be looking at another multi-team tie to decide. Like imagine South Africa, Nicaragua, and Spain are all tied
Oh my
at 1 and 2,
oh my god.
and they're like,
Oh.
let's pull out the run quotient.
Oh, the worst part is I can fucking see it happening. Like these teams have so many fucking holes. I can totally see it happening. Meanwhile, Taiwan just fucking signs off after going 3-0 with like a plus
Right.
25 run differential or
It's
something
it's
like that.
it's like South Africa beats Nicaragua 3-2. Huge ups. The next day, Taiwan beats South Africa like 13-1, and it's like, all right. And that's the thing. It's like it doesn't matter how they perform against Taiwan if they all go 1-2. It's not even gonna those games won't even make a difference because that's thrown out in the tiebreaker. So it's like 3 teams at 1-2, and I think I'm done with tiebreakers. Like I liked what they did in previous WBCs, where instead of like it would just be 2 teams advancing to a tiebreaker game. Like I like that way more. Like at least there's some semblance of like dictating who wins based on like wins and losses on the field.
Right, right.
Not like, oh well, if you play less innings, if you beat a team 16-1, and then they won another game, in like 11-2 in 9 innings. Well, that team who won in 9 innings is actually going to benefit more than you for winning in 5 innings. So I was like, how does that make sense?
You would
Or
think thinking
I would
about
think
it
I
from
should
like
say more like 15-2 in 5 innings, or 15-2 in like 7 innings. That would make more sense.
yeah,
But yeah, it's like you get penalized for winning games sooner. Like to me, that makes no sense.
you would think from an economic point of view, at least in the actual WBC, like wouldn't they be incentivized to have more games? They could sell more tickets,
Yeah, you
have
would
more
think
people watch the game, like stream the game or whatever. You would think.
that's why I'm surprised they haven't like moved it to like 24 teams. Like you get more games, you get more viewership, and you get just like more people buying merchandise at the stadium. The more they come to the stadium, and it's just to me it doesn't make sense that they're like actively looking for ways to not increase.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like maybe I mean they'll probably expand in 2029, right?
yeah, I mean, I think they probably will just because it's going to be so competitive. Where it there you could have maybe argued Czechia and China in the same group. You're like, it's a little light with this group. Like we're not sure if either of these teams like have to be there for the next edition.
Right.
But I don't know. I just feel like they're like the main WBC is just going to be insanely competitive. That's like the thing that I like more about baseball than other sports is you really don't have to have more talent than the other team to beat them in a WBC tournament. Like this could be
No, definitely not.
I've always looked at the history of this. Like someone like Puerto Rico, who has made a WBC final twice. There's literally you look at like soccer. There's no country anywhere close to them who has made a final of a tournament of a world tournament with that few of people living in a country. Like it's impossible for you as a small country really to win big in that sport. Whereas baseball, it's like you don't have to have as good of a lineup. You don't even have to have as much depth in pitching. But if you have one or two really high level pitchers, you can win against a team who's got a lot more talent than you.
Yeah, it's my housemate's Puerto Rican, and he just says it's just how Puerto Rico operates. They just
Oh,
they take the odds, they throw them out, they somehow find their way to winning big.
you look at last tournament. I still don't know how Puerto Rico beat Dominican Republic.
I have no idea.
I'm
I
like,
was
you look at the
rewatching that game.
talent,
I was like, how did they win this game?
but I do say that. But what kind of was involved with that is one of my biggest complaints about the WBC, which is why do we not have players going to their camps and playing friendlies and exhibitions before the tournament? Like this idea that you can't leave your camp early to play in these games, that makes no sense to me because players are not going to be as acclimated, as ready. Like if you go from just playing 3 innings a game in like the most relaxed environment possible, all of a sudden you're playing 9 innings in a game where if you lose, there's people in your country that are going to be cursing you out for hours on social media.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
prime example of that's Yu Darvish at the 2023 WBCs. They didn't let him get tuned up with the Japan. Like he was at the Japanese camp, but he
yeah,
couldn't
he couldn't
like
pitch.
pitch in games. So, they throw him in versus Korea. He didn't really.
Like
He had it for 2 innings and then he didn't have it. And then
and
they're
then
like, well, we can't give you another start to figure it out because by the time your rest thing's over, it's single elimination, and we can't chance that.
they put him into then I think the next game he pitched was the final against the US.
Yes, and he gave up
And
the nuclear bomb to Kyle Schwarber.
when I went out, I was like, I feel like the US is gonna come back if they don't take him out.
Yeah,
But
I was watching that at bat. I was like, he's gonna give up a home run to Schwarber. Like I was just seeing the 2022, what is it, NLCS between the Padres and the Phillies when Schwarber hit that. He hit basically the exact same home run off of Darvish then. High drive to
yeah,
right field, and I was like, this is so obvious. Like the only saving grace is there's no one on base.
I think, and that's the thing is the Padres were complaining that he wasn't getting more time, but I was like, be real. Are they going to put him into like the ninth inning of a game against Mexico in the semifinals? Like they had that, and then the game against Italy.
Yeah.
And what do you want? Like Japan it cannot just like this isn't like spring training where they're just like, oh, we'll just patch it together and let's see how he looks, and then it's not the way that works. Like if you lose, like there's probably not gonna go well for the manager.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, and so that's why I really want them to like sign on to let teams go to camp, let players pitch in games because you see like now they have the like Po Yu Chen, he can't pitch in any exhibition games right now for Taiwan. They have him in simulated games, but the Pirates literally sent people to watch and approve if he can pitch in a simulated game.
Oh my
I'm
god.
like, this is insane control freak behavior. Like, let's just knowing what we know, they're not gonna risk injury with these guys because they know that they'll never get approval again. So
Yeah.
they're not gonna like overwork a guy, but they also want to know like if this guy's starting in the first game against Spain, we got to know if he's gonna be ready. Like,
Yeah. That's another thing on the like the any given Sunday kind of nature of the WBC before it all taking place, especially this taking place before spring training. Like who knows? Like we can talk about like these roster makeups all day and like, oh, this person struggled in the past, but like what are they going to show up with? Like Elian Leva might be up to 90, or he might like be barely cracking like 83 or something like that with the fastball.
yeah, it's if you just don't have guys ready, you show up in that game, and then that can be literally like, wait, we might be in danger of not qualifying now.
Yeah, because of one person just not being tuned up for whatever reason.
I think the Reds didn't approve. Yeah, Shang and Lin. He can't play in the games either. It's like, what is the incentive to that? Like, especially position players. That's what I want to know. Like, what is the risk to them playing in these games?
Yeah. The Reds when they approve their players to play in international competition sometimes, but then other times don't.
Like I was saying about the Dominican Republic, I feel like a major reason they lost is because their team is almost entirely MLB players. I think Robinson Cano was probably the only one that wasn't, but they didn't have any warm up. They had
Yeah.
no. They just went straight into games, and so if the hitters aren't in tune with and don't have their swing ready, and then all of a sudden they're struggling for a few games, then it's over.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's like, oh well, they didn't take it seriously. They
Which
didn't.
which is a little bit of the reason why I'm worried about Germany, considering China's been playing exhibition games like the entire winter.
Yeah, Germany. I mean, they're playing the games against the Irish Wolfhounds, but I don't know if they have any other exhibition games scheduled. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
like I'm pretty sure they only played like a couple exhibition games last time around too, right? Like in
I
2022, they played like a couple against the Czechs, I think.
imagine an MLB team was like, you know what? We don't want to schedule all these games in spring training. We're just gonna play like two, and then we're gonna go to the season.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
and
people would
then
be like, "You're insane." Like,
exactly, yeah. You show up, you go like oh, and I don't know, what however many games are in like April, like you lose like 90% of your games in April because of that.
they're like, "Well, we weren't ready. Well, why weren't you ready? Oh, well, we like not to do spring training games. Oh, okay, because that makes sense."
Yeah, exactly.
And so I just wish they would allow players to join their camp early, play in friendlies, play in exhibition games, so that way they're ready to go. And I mean, it would probably lead to less embarrassing performances.
Yeah, and you would think it would also be you could sell it to the teams as being like, yeah, they're getting ready. They're facing higher levels of competition earlier. So when it actually gets to the MLB or minor league season, they'll be like more spun up than the competition they're facing. Isn't that
But,
what you
but
want?
it's like, but what if he gets hurt? One thing I've noticed about spring training is no players have ever gotten hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
So
No players have ever gotten hurt in spring training. Definitely not.
I'm a little concerned by like if these guys are gonna be ready to go because it's gonna be a challenge to say the least.
Yeah.
Because I think in the article I read, I think they were implying Po Yu Chan is gonna start against Spain, but didn't outright say it. But I don't. It wouldn't be a bad option. But it is interesting that like the best offense they'll face, they're gonna go with maybe their third best pitcher.
Yeah, Po Yu Chen doesn't show up heated up to go, and there's like two people on base, and Luis Guillorme gets a hold of one, and suddenly, you know,
Do you know that dude's never hit a home run in the big leagues?
wait, Luis Guillorme's never hit a home run in the big
I,
leagues?
I'm pretty sure I at least the last few years. I might need to go back because I was looking at the stats the other day and I was like, this is this for real?
Okay, he's hit 5 home runs
Okay,
in 882
yeah,
at bats.
okay, yeah. It was either I know he had two in 2022. Okay, yeah. So yeah,
Okay. Which,
two
of
and
course,
one.
we're saying this, and then he's gonna hit like 3 home runs in the
It's gonna
qualifying.
be funny when like into like the very first game against Taiwan, he hits like a grand slam in the eighth inning.
Yeah, yeah, and we're gonna be like,
Like,
okay, yeah, of course.
mind you, he had let's count him up. He had 10 RBIs in the entire season last year. So if he hit a grand slam in the first game, I would be like, can't predict ball.
Yeah, yeah, I literally can't do it. And I mean, I think this is a good segue. Let's talk about one player from each team where we're going to be interested in watching.
One
Um,
player from each team. That's a good question.
yeah, you pick one and I'll pick a different one. And let's start with Taiwan.
Taiwan. That's a good one here. Let me look. So Taiwan, I would say the player I'm most interested in watching. I'll probably go with I'm not a Chinese speaker, so if anyone who is a Chinese speaker is offended, my bad. But Chen Zhuang, the A's
Yeah,
double A pitcher, who I think has pretty good chance to make the big leagues in 2025.
yeah,
Um, Yeah, I'm pretty interested in watching him. Like, I kind of get major like Yu Darvish kind of vibes a little bit. He's not have quite of explosive stuff, but I mean it's just the easy and free delivery, and he's got a pretty nasty sweep and breaking ball. And he's probably the one pitcher that I'm really interested in looking. But they have quite a few pitchers that I'm really interested in watching. And I don't want to pick like guys that we've like watched and like are like known commodities because I mean I could just said Yu Chang or something, but
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to watch what Yu Chang does. Like, yeah, he's probably gonna hit a home run.
right,
I just
just like
answered what he's going to do for you.
yeah. But I mean Joe his shoe I can't pronounce that name. I gotta pick up. I gotta do my Duolingo.
Yo,
But it's yeah. I mean,
Joe C.
I watched when
I don't know.
I was researching the roster. I watched a ton of that dude's highlights, and um, honestly, I'm like, damn, this dude kind of shoves.
Yeah, I got kind of flamed, rightly so, for not having him on my potential roster, and I was like, dang, this guy's pretty good.
I was like he's like throwing like 97 on the black, and I was just like, okay, all right, this dude's kind of legit.
Yeah, for me, the guy I want to watch the most at for Taiwan is yi-lei's son from the Fighters minor league system in MPB. To borrow another, like, this guy reminds me of this Japanese pitcher. He reminds me a little of Roki. Like, he's kind of tall and lanky with long levers, and he's got like a high leg kick.
Oh yeah,
I don't think he's probably going to be starting for them. Like, I had him on my potential roster as like their closer. So I actually don't know how they'll use him, but he's I want to see what he can do.
yeah. I think it's I just look at their pitchers, and I'm just like, man, they are so loaded. Like this is crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's definitely something where I'm just like, man, I don't know how you match up with these dudes because it's gonna be hard to score on them. I think the one thing I'm probably the most excited about is they will probably just by playing these games in Taiwan, more people will follow the qualifiers because they're going to highlight the fans. And I feel like that was a big draw for the last WBC was
Yeah.
like even people who didn't care about Taiwan's team, it was just the fans were so entertaining, were so honestly kind of insane
Yeah.
that that people started getting interested in them because I was like I mentioned before to you in a prior podcast, man, I watched the Netherlands play against them. Like you could just see they were getting overwhelmed by the crowd. And I don't care if they deny it. They were. I mean, there's pitchers breathing heavy as hell on the mounds and players looking like they would rather just be anywhere else.
Yeah.
It's just like
RA looked like he was getting shot at out there.
right. It was just a crazy atmosphere, and it's really one of the few atmospheres where I feel like there is a home field advantage
Oh yeah,
because
for sure.
it's just the fans are so rabid, so crazy. It's just like there's nothing happening in the game. Like there's just like there's like a pickoff of a person on first with 2 outs, not a whole lot. Pitcher's taking his time, and the crowd is going nuts. And I'm just
And
like I mean that has to feel crazy for your pitcher on the mound, and you're just like, okay, I gotta try to make this pitch, and these people are honestly all over me.
yeah, and it's gonna be even harder, I think, because the Taipei Dome is bigger. It holds more people, and it's a dome. And I think I saw on Twitter every single game Taiwan is playing is sold out.
I think I
Apparently,
read all the other games are actually pretty close to being full too, that
that's
don't involve
crazy.
Taiwan. Yeah,
That's crazy.
they're like Spain against South Africa is supposed to be pretty full. So like they just love baseball.
Yeah, Dylan Unsworth is gonna get a CPBL deal literally the next day, probably.
That's one of the things that I think differentiates them from some of the other countries in Asia is the non Japan and non South Korean games really don't get very many people. Like they're pretty empty. And then you look at Taiwan, like if you just watch, like even the WBC games last time, I felt like there was more people in those games for like Netherlands, Cuba than there would have
Yeah,
been in for if it was played in Tokyo or Seoul. Like they were,
yeah,
it's like we need to just like they should just be like a permanent host.
Yeah, honestly,
Like,
because I remember, yeah, I remember the Cuba game. Like, there's the guy with the Vuvuzuela, but then also like I think there's like a bunch of Taiwanese like school kids all had field trips to that game. I think I remember is what the announcers said. So there was like a bunch of just kids in the crowd having a great time.
yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just like the baseball culture is so it's so fun, and I feel like it's just like if you're a fan, you just kind of want to just be a part of it, even if your favorite team's not playing, because it's just like they just come to have a party basically.
Yeah.
Whereas in like it's you look at like the US, it's just not quite the same. Like I remember like when the Mets announced they were gonna have cheerleaders and fans were just like crucifying them,
Yeah.
saying, a waste of
Ooh.
time. I was just like, oh no, kids might actually like being at the game.
Really, the only place in Major League Baseball I think like even kind of compared was the Coliseum. I was fortunate to get to go to a couple games in the Coliseum when I was younger, where it was really like I went to watch. I think it was like some national holiday. I can't remember exactly which one, but between the Yankees and the A's in like 2018 when the A's were good. And the Coliseum was full, and there were people yelling and banging on the drums and playing the horns, and like that's really the closest it ever got here. And of course
Yeah.
we don't have that anymore. Great.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks MLB, thanks John
But hey,
Fisher.
Sacramento should be absolutely killing it.
Yeah. If Sacramento is a permanent major league market, I guess Oklahoma City also needs to be one.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think yeah, so it's just like Taiwan really I just think they definitely should be hosts. And I wonder if MLB has the courage to give Taiwan the main Asia hosting venue. They
Ooh.
don't, but
No,
it's
I don't think they can as long as Shohei Ohtani exists.
I feel like Japanese people would travel though, so that's the thing. It's kind of like Miami it's a nice place because of the how uh how multicultural it is,
Mhm.
but also can we move it around a little bit too? Like Puerto Rico got it again, but they've hosted it now. It's the third time,
Yeah.
and I was honestly really surprised Mexico didn't get a hosting spot.
Yeah, I mean, Houston's in Texas. It's kind of close to Mexico, I
I
guess.
think they kind of that's how their thinking was basically. Oh, I
Yeah.
mean, well, Mexican Americans will be there, and
Yeah.
so it's all good. But I mean, I kind of wanted just like, can we just host it in Mexico City, like just for the offensive numbers alone?
Yeah.
It's
God,
just like, oh, we go to the fifth, it's 13-12.
yeah. Oh my God, that'd be so funny.
It'd be funny if it's like between like two aces and MLB, and they're like, what's happening?
Yeah. It's just like I don't know who would it be. Like, say it's in
I want to
Mexico
see
City, and
Paul
it,
Skeens,
it
Paul
yeah,
Skeens
Paul
against.
Skeens gives up like 6 runs in the first inning or something, and like I don't know, maybe they have like
It's just like his blinker
Alessandro
isn't blinking.
Alessandro Urcolani is like starting the game. He's only going like 3 innings because of pitch counts, and he's sitting like 100, but everything is just like doesn't break. Like nothing he throws moves, so he gets drilled.
I just want it for like the broadcasters to say he kept his team in the game while he's giving up like 7 runs.
Yeah, the
It's like
classic.
he's doing his job.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next team players
Yes.
we're looking forward to.
Nicaragua.
For me, it's I think for sure probably Emmanuel Trio because I
Okay,
think that dude hits nukes. Like in the series of the Americas, he hit a opposite field home run where he almost cleared like the stands,
that's
and
crazy.
I was like, and like the broadcasters, like obviously I don't speak Spanish, but they weren't like going crazy, and I was like, am I the one just saw this dude just hit a ball like 430 feet to the opposite field? Like this is crazy. And he hit 3 home runs, he hit 4 in the tournament, and he just hits nukes, and they're gonna need him to hit nukes
Yeah.
because not too many other guys can do it. Elion Rayo, he can run into some, but I'm kind of excited to just see him absolutely crush. And one thing I noticed is like physically him and like Elion Miranda look like identical. So so it's like so I had to do double take. I was like, wait, those are two different dudes, right? And he's gonna probably be the guy that has to come through the most for them. And I feel like he's gonna be kind of one of those dudes that like the average casual like American fan has no idea exists.
Probably, yeah.
So when he hits one like 430 to dead center, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, so who is this dude? He looks kind of good, and some MLB team will sign him.
Yeah, for me, I'm tempted to say Elian Rayo because I'm a Giants fan. I'm actually gonna say, sorry, this is also kind of a boring pick, Ronald Madrano. Um, which something about I don't know what it is. He is just really entertaining to watch pitch. Like I was rewatching some of the games he pitched for Spain at the 2022 WBCQ, and I was trying to find some like videotapes for my potential rosters video. There's just something about the way he pitches with like the subtly moving fastball that's like pretty high velocity, honestly, for like these kind of competitions. Um, and the breaking ball as along with like his specific mechanics of pitching that I just really find satisfying.
You know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Nestor Cortez.
Yeah, he kind of he
He
kind of has
does a
some of that
lot of the
like
same. He does a lot of the like he'll just the hold, the twist,
yeah.
and then and his fastball. It's like he can get it up there like 93 occasionally, but he's blowing it by like major league hitters at like 90, 91
Yeah, I
in winter balls.
remember. I
I
remember at Regensburg and then the game against the Czech Republic, the final game they played. Like he just threw three fastballs by their first three hitters to strike them all out in the first inning. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but it's I think he started the game they lost against
He,
the Czechs. Yeah, and then he gave up the 2-run homer. I think I'm trying to remember who that was. Was that Martin Mujic? I think it was.
yeah,
It
I
was either
think
him or it was I believe he gave up one to Marek Kloop.
Marek Kloop, I think, hit a solo shot. I
Yeah,
think.
he had a solo and then he gave up a 2-run homer. It was either Martin Mujic or it was one of the other guys. I can't remember. But he pitched pretty well. I think there's only two really hard hit balls he gave up, but they just were like the difference in the game.
Yeah.
But he's definitely his fastball plays up. Like I feel like he gets quite a bit of swing and misses where you're just like, man, how is he getting to by these hitters at 90, 91? But I would love to see kind of like analytics on his fastball
Right. Yeah.
because
I'm
it
sure
seems like
there's.
it's better than it should be based on velocity, but it could just be he's just got his spin rate is on. I feel like his spin rate on a lot of his breaking pitches is really good because it feels like he can get a lot of wild swings on his breaking balls. The only concern I have with him is he can walk when he's off. Like he tends to have games where he walks 5 or 6 guys. Like I think he had a game in the Mexican League playoffs where he walked 6 in like 3 innings.
Mhm.
So that would be like my main concern with him. Like I don't think he's gonna get hit hard, but it's just gonna be control. Like that's probably the only thing that'll get him. And they're not really a team built necessarily to like have to patch together 6 or 7 innings from the bullpen. They kind of you have Leonardo Crawford, who's going to be more kind of like the guy who bridges like the 5th, 6th inning gaps, and then they can go to Carlos Tejer and he can go for an inning. And so it's if they have to come in early, like in the 4th, it's I think it's going to be a highly problematic for them.
All right. Now on to Spain. Who are you interested to watch
For
play on
me,
Spain?
I think for sure Felix Stevens.
Hmm.
Like it's like his numbers aren't that great, especially considering his age. But when he gets a hold of one, like Emmanuel Trio, he just crushes.
Yeah.
Like I think he hit like 450-foot homer in 2023. So I'm interested to see if he can provide some of the pop because they don't have a lot of guys with pop, and he's going to be one. And so they're going to be guys who kind of I think are more station to station.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it'll be interested to see if he can kind of give them some thump because they're going to need it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is pretty unfortunate that like all the guys who would provided them power, Elier Hernandez and Welby Marte, aren't here. Pete
Yeah, I mean,
Alonso.
I think if we had the same Nicaragua roster and then they got Elia Hernandez and Noel Marte. I mean, I'd probably pick Spain to win.
I would absolutely pick Spain in that case, which is it's like just one guy, which I think is a testament to how evenly matched they are.
Yeah, I mean, just one thing can kind of see who advances, and so that's why like it's so hard to predict who's gonna win, presumably the second matchup, because it comes down to well who's on the mount,
Yeah,
you
pitch
know, and
counts and
so what about you?
I'm gonna pick this is a funnier pick. I'm gonna pick Chris Quetzer because I know my friends over at the baseball podcast, those two Phillies fans, are huge Chris Quetzer fans, and I also just love the way he looked at the last qualifier with the long blonde hair underneath the helmet. I just thought it was funny. And I mean, he's not even bad. He had a decent year, like a solid year in indie ball last year. He had like a 750 OPS. So he
Yeah,
might.
yeah. I mean, he's had some decent years in indie ball. Like he's not someone that you can like say is gonna be an easy out. But I do feel like he played pretty decently at the last qualifier.
Yeah, I think he played pretty well, but he was coming off a much better season than these. Like since 2022, his stats have been declining. It looks
Yeah,
like,
it's
unfortunately.
it's not a bad pick considering who's available. I almost picked Carlos Colmenares just because he's. It seems like he's like in the Australian Baseball League. He actually had a pretty decent season.
Yeah,
He was actually hitting for some power, 6 home runs,
because
and
I think he was supposed to be a pretty legit prospect before he got hurt, right?
did Carlos Colmenares get hurt?
I think he got hurt a while ago and then healed and wasn't the same offensively. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, because I remember getting hurt recently, but I suppose he could have been hurt. I mean, I think for him is I want to say let me look at his numbers. Like I think he probably got hurt in 2023 because he only played 88 games, so maybe he got hurt that season because that's where in the complex league he had like a very brief stop before A ball, but he had like 845 OPS as like an 18-year-old, 18, 19-year-old. Honestly, I feel like he's somebody who he didn't have a good 2024, but finished strong in the Australian league and has really. I thought he played. I thought he's just hitting for a lot more pop was
Yeah.
something I noticed. Like he hit like a couple like opposite field homers. I was like, okay, I didn't realize he had this type of pop.
Yeah.
And so I almost picked him, but I feel like there's a couple guys that I could have gone with, but I think Felix Stevens. I was like, I just pray that like somebody hangs like just an absolutely atrocious breaking ball like right in the middle of the plate. Like I just want to see how far it goes.
Yeah, yeah. Justin Erasmus just hangs like the worst slider of all time.
All right, now we're gonna do not Australia, but South Africa.
Yes. Who are you?
And
Who are you looking at?
I got to get in the lab here. Think I think for me, probably I'll go with Luke November,
Hmm.
just because he had a really strong showing at the under 23. He wasn't hitting for power, but he didn't strike out much. I think it was 2 strikeouts he had. Like he puts the ball in play. He was hitting it to all fields, and he has pretty good command of the strike zone. I'm interested to see if he can kind of hit for some pop a little bit because he seems like he's somebody who has some power. He just, for whatever reason, hasn't been able to develop it yet.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's probably like one of the few guys in the lineup who isn't going to be overwhelmed by velocity.
Yeah.
And so I'll go with him. But I mean, other guy I would have probably gone with is like Dylan Unsworth, just because he's the most capable pitcher that they have.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Dylan Unsworth. I'll steal him from you because he's honestly one of my favorite players in international baseball history to watch pitch. Like I remember watching when did he win the was it the Helms Award in the ABL? I think it was 2019, 2020.
It sounds right.
And I watched every single one of his starts that season. There's just
Oh,
something like because like the stuff really isn't there, especially now. The stuff isn't there anymore. But he never really was a stuff guy in the past,
yeah.
even when he was like 2017 with the Mariners when he should have made the big league. Like he was never a stuff guy. He was always just like a pitcher's pitcher. He just pitched.
Yeah. One thing like I was one of 5 people who watched his start against New Zealand in the qualifiers in 2016. I felt like he was very good at pitching up with his fastball. Like that was like it wasn't. I think at that time it was maybe 93 was where he was maxing out, but he was very good, I think, at pitching up in the zone, even despite lacking like a premium fastball. He's lost some of that now, but he very much has still, I think, a lot of that pinpoint control.
Yeah.
So while he's like 87, 88 now, I still think he can give you 5 innings, 1 run against someone like Nicaragua, just because he still has some pretty decent off-speed pitches, still has that control where the fastball isn't what it once was, but it can still have some effectiveness.
Yeah.
And tell you what, but them not having Aaron Lovegrove really hurts though.
Yeah. I mean, that's tough, but it's yeah.
I feel like
It's
he'd probably be the hardest thrower on this team.
probably honestly probably. And it's unfortunately out of their control. He just had a kid,
Yeah.
so
So that stinks for them because he would have been the number 2 guy like pretty easily.
yeah. I
And
wonder. I gotta wonder if Taylor Scott asked to play and the Astros said no.
I feel like he may have been asked and said no because I know the Astros were complaining left and right after the 2023 WBC when
Yeah,
they
didn't they
lost.
pull? They pulled Framber from playing. I'm pretty sure, right?
He said he wanted to go, and then the last minute he said no, and like he's talking about his commitment to the Astros, where this was very obviously front office told him that he's not playing,
Yeah.
and so yeah, because I mean Altuve broke his hand, and then what's his face Luis Garcia, not long after had to get Tommy John, and then Jose Urquidy was out for months with elbow injury.
Yeah.
So I
They're
know
probably,
they're like, we're not releasing a pitcher. Though it would not surprise me if Colombia got one of their minor leaguers though.
yeah. I have a. They were Taylor was like, hey, can I go play in Taiwan? And they're like, Taylor, you're the new closer. We traded Ryan Presley. You don't think we're gonna have Josh Hader close games, do you?
He's like, is that a no or it would have been nice to see Taylor Scott there because, man, I mean, honestly like if they could get approval, they'd probably like, can we start him? Like,
He's started games before for the Astros. He's not gonna throw that much because they want to use him more than once.
yeah, that's so it was a shame that he didn't pitch, but like I truly doubt he just passed just because I mean he knew that without him the chances are minimal.
Yeah, and he talks about being South African a lot. Like it's not like it's something where he's like, oh yeah, I'm from South Africa, whatever. He's very vocal about it.
I feel like trying to find too many players to get excited about was a little difficult with South Africa because some of these guys I haven't seen, but I've seen quite a bit of these players. But I think it's just they're gonna have to find a way to pull
Yeah.
off an upset. I just them beating Nicaragua and then 3 teams 1 and 2. That just feels like it's gonna happen. I mean, like I'm almost talking myself into it because it's like it'll happen some way somehow because that would just make perfect sense because there is no dominant team. And Taiwan is, even while I wouldn't say dominant, they're far and away much better than their competition here.
Yeah. And let's use that as a segue to make our official predictions here. Gun to your head and saying you have to make a prediction.
So first place and advancing out, I'm gonna go with South. No, actually, let's go with Taiwan. I think it's just the pitching is just too strong, and Yu Chang is he's gonna run into one, if not multiple home runs, and it's gonna be hard to really overcome pitching when you know your margin of error. It's just gonna be so small to beat a team like Taiwan because I do think in the Premier 12 they overachieved quite a bit. Like you look at some of their numbers in the regular season, like they far outpaced what they were doing in the regular season. So I think they overachieved a bit offensively. So I don't think this necessarily is going to be a great offensive Taiwan team, but they're going to be. I mean, even though it's different rosters, but a lot of these guys aren't necessarily dominant offensive players in the CPBL. But I think it's with Yu Chang, he's far and away probably the best player in the tournament. And so I think Taiwan's gonna win 3 games fairly comfortably and advance. And then the second spot, I think it's gonna come down to Spain against Nicaragua. South Africa could be in the mix if they can pull off an upset on day one. But I think Spain against Nicaragua, and I think they're gonna save Ronald Madrano for that game. So like if neither of them beat Taiwan, their game on day 2 really doesn't matter at all. It's if as long as they can beat South Africa. So it's really just for that final game. And I think I got to go with Nicaragua winning a game. It's gonna be close, something like 4-3, and I think they're gonna squeak out a win and advance to the WBC. And I'll tell you what, I'm really excited for them at the World Baseball Classic because most people who don't follow Nicaragua baseball at all are going to look at them as they're going to be huge underdogs and like a punching bag, but they have a ton of pitching. So while the offense is not going to be super remarkable in a WBC if they advance, they're going to have just incredible amount of pitching that they can rely on, and they'll be deep. So, I mean, I kind of want them to advance just because I think they'll provide a lot more resistance than maybe another one of these other countries besides Taiwan will. But I think they will win the final game against Spain.
Okay. Quickly before my prediction, if Elier Hernandez was here, would you say he's a better player than Yu Chang? Would you have said that?
Probably.
Yeah.
I would give him the slight edge just because I think he's got a little better track record as far as facing the best pitchers. Whereas, but it would be pretty close. I think Yu Chang's one of those guys that like I feel like he wasn't maximized in Major League Baseball because I don't think that I just he's kind of one of those guys that feels like slipped through the cracks a little bit because when he's at his best you can just see the natural talent, but it just seemed like the kind of the hit tool MLB didn't progress.
Yeah. For me, I have number 1 as South Africa. Oh, I have my list upside down. Hang on.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I have Taiwan qualifying. They really just got to show up. I think it's funny, like looking back at our first podcast episode together, where we like talked about like, hey, this pool could be really close. Like, there's a chance Taiwan might not even qualify depending on these rosters. And now it's like, oh, they basically got all their dudes, and the other 2 teams got nobody almost. So that being said, I think I'm gonna agree with you. I think the more like our conversation here, the more I look at Spain's roster, the more I think that Nicaragua is just gonna be deep enough with the pitching. Like the pitching is a bit younger, even if it's not as maybe like major league, minor league experienced as Spain's is. Like it's just going to be a bit younger, a bit fresher, and I think their depth with the pitching is gonna beat Spain's depth with the hitting. That being said, I'm kind of the opposite from you with Nicaragua. I kind of think that if Spain like made the main tournament, like they could be kind of sneaky good. Like if you keep you keep Felix Stevens and Carlos Colmenares, but then you also get Omar Hernandez, Noelvi Marte, and Emil Morales, and you somehow talk Pete Alonso into maybe playing for you somehow. Like that lineup would probably play pretty well in basically any of the pools. And the pitching, you supplant the pitching with Ronald Madrano, and maybe they remember Yari Perez, and boom, you're off and running.
Yeah, I think it's I'm kind of under the assumption Pete Alonso wouldn't play for them. I feel like I've never heard Pete ever actually mention anything about Spain. I feel like they just talked about his grandpa, but I don't really think that doesn't seem like there's a real pull to play for Spain.
Well, there is an interview where he talks about his Spanish grandpa briefly, and I can send it to you, but it's very brief.
Yeah, I think for Nicaragua, if like Nelson Cruz can just like do them a solid, they need Mark Vientos in this lineup. Like, but I think I look at Spain is that they have it's kind of offensively, if they get their guys at a main WBC, they can have a pretty decent offense. I'm just not sure the pitching, even with some of the guys they have like Yeri and and Peter Bonilla. I'm just not sure it's going to be enough. Give them a chance to really be overly dangerous in a group. Whereas I see, because I value in kind of the pitching more so than the offense in these tournaments, because it never feels like the offenses are as far along as the pitching when the tournament begins. And I look at like if Nicaragua advances, their 2026 WBC like pitching staff, I think you probably only get maybe two or three of these dudes that are on this team are going to be on that team.
Yeah.
Like they have a wealth of pitching that outside of like Mexico and Dominican Republic and Venezuela, there might not be another like Latin American country with as deep a pitching staff as them that can pitch in WBC.
Hmm.
So I mean, all their guys are like they're like in the complex league and single A, so they're gonna need some of them to take a step forward.
Yeah.
But it's just they have just insane depth, and I feel like if they get to WBC, what they're gonna do is they're gonna stick them in Miami.
Yeah.
Like I already know what's gonna happen. They're gonna stick them in Miami, and then one of their first games is gonna be against Dominican Republic. It's gonna be tough sledding, but I think they could be a sleeper team as far as they're going to make someone like Dominican Republic, Venezuela sweat to try and get out of the pool. But Spain would have some pretty interesting offense.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I don't think Noel Marte has any chance of making the Dominican roster. So I
No.
think the Spanish roster, I think he for sure would. I think he would play just because if he's even asked, it's probably a somewhat decent sign. He had an okay year. I don't know. I feel like I feel like it's just like they're opposites as far as what they would do in WBC. One would be kind of an offensive focus. The other one is pitching. It just kind of depends what you value more.
Yeah, I think that both of them are definitely better than some of the teams in the WBC right now, for sure. I think there are teams that would probably be more concerned with getting relegated than both of them would be if they made it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the next WBC is so interesting just because the talent for a lot of these nations is really, really improved. I mean, I kind of feel bad for Czechia a little bit.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's gonna
it's
be a struggle.
gonna be tough sledding because I mean, Taiwan advances like we expect.
Oh
They're
my
going to
God.
Tokyo. Like that's just not even a question. They're going to Tokyo.
Czechia
And
is going to get absolutely blown off the face of the earth in that
like
pool.
when the qualifier team has a starting pitcher who's throwing 98, you're just like, this is like this is not ideal. So I mean, it's gonna be tough, and
Yeah, is the Tokyo pool gonna be the pool of death next time? I think it might be.
for me, I personally think the pool of death could very well be in Houston.
That too.
Because you look at that great, like I did a projection for Great Britain. While I was doing it, I was like, damn, this team's actually kind of really good. They're just
They
not as good as Mexico or the US. So advancing is like gonna be really tough. But I mean,
yeah. They will fall to the mighty sword of Chase Burns, who was born in Italy, therefore he will start for Italy.
right?
And
I was
the Italian monster, what's his name?
Vinny Pasquantino.
Vinny Pasquantino.
I think Italy is just interesting just because they have a lot of pitching options who are Italian born, so they
Yep.
better select them.
Yeah. But that's a conversation for another day. What's a conversation for today is talking about MLB's promotion of the WBC and the WBCQs and what they're doing right and wrong.
It's like I told someone the last tournament for WBC was almost all fan promotion.
Yeah, it really was. It was Sean, in the trenches and everyone else.
Like they really the main WBC account wasn't even really like posting a whole lot of WB stuff until right before the tournament. And then they announced the rosters and then they progressively do it more and more. But it's like talk about the WBC qualifier rosters. Oh, it's coming out this time, and then build some excitement, and then people start to follow. But I mean, I guess this time it's hey, we're cutting the qualifier list again. So I mean, get excited.
Dude, if France gives Bochy a roster that can qualify, France is literally going to win the entire thing if they let them cook.
Man, I'm actually following quite a bit of like French's like players in college or France players in
Dude, they
college.
have like 20 players in college.
Yeah, it's I'm just like I don't want to get too hot takey, but I do feel like Germany and France are like the future of European baseball.
Yeah, I think Italy. I think we might be underselling Italy a little bit.
I think Italy thing is, I think we're not seeing Division One players really, other than
Maybe.
Eduardo Cornelli.
Yeah, Eduardo. Yeah.
Cornelli, like he's getting in there, but I feel like they're still a little bit behind Germany as far as like hitting development, and that's very recent for Germany too. Like,
Yeah.
and Germany's like I said this
Dude.
before, but like I feel like European national teams just gonna be like 90% like Dominicans and Cubans and Venezuelans, like who just moved. Because like Germany's youth players are like all their best players are seemingly not all, but like 80% of them feel like they're like their
Half.
parents
Yeah, half
Dominican or
German. Yeah.
Venezuelan,
Yeah,
and
but I mean, yeah. I mean,
gotta
I
take
guess that
advantage.
is how it works. Yeah. Got to take advantage. Yeah.
And
But
because it's so funny because like they like are like propping up like national teams like all around the world, like all these Venezuelans like are in like Costa Rica, like trying to like get their national team going. So like it's like, and then Japanese send coaches and families get raised in these other countries and they start propping up their national teams. It's like, and I'm just looking at the U.S. like, what are we doing? That's like, we're just in Brazil now. Oh, that's cool, but like anywhere else or no?
yeah.
It's like, oh well, I mean, we could. I feel like I always look at like Europe is. I feel like it's so not. It's not really that difficult.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of places where sporting culture is like huge, and if you can like convince more players that like to try baseball and convince like federations like, hey, like you guys can actually like win big in this other than like you know basically being a feeder for like England and France and Germany. Like you can actually win big because I mean I think about like Balkan countries are very
Bulgaria.
passionate about sports. And I was like, you could sell baseball to the Balkans, but
Yeah.
they look at it as, oh, well, it's not profitable because they don't have like, 50 million people or whatever. But it's like, like I feel like that's where MLB is just its failings are. They
Yeah.
look at profit and they look at, what they're gonna do for them.
Yeah.
Like it's I feel like it's just like it's so frustrating to me because you like I feel like Croatia and Serbia could be baseball powerhouses,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they just don't see any incentive, and that's why they only focus on Brazil. Like no, you notice they don't do anything in other South American countries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Argentina gets a little bit, but not much at all.
Argentina does really well in the WBC qualifier, and then they get booted.
Remember when you guys almost beat Nicaragua? We're actually punishing you for that because you didn't win. So we're just gonna bounce you. But we're also not really gonna like tell you we're bouncing you. We're just gonna let you piece that together on your own.
Yeah. Same deal with like the Philippines. Probably.
I'm I'm like the Philippines actually could have had a pretty damn solid roster.
Yeah, they have a huge diaspora.
I feel like there was a lot of things they could have done that would have made these qualifiers better. And I feel like that's part of the reason why the qualifiers aren't like a big deal to people.
Yeah.
Is like me trying to explain to another person why these teams weren't invited. It's actually
Yeah.
more annoying than MLB like getting rid of teams because it's like you're almost having to like justify why they did it, and it's just like this is stupid. Like
Yeah.
they like I told you before, like how you could literally just have every national team in the world competing, and it's like I had a thought recently, like MLB could literally run like a qualifier red zone type channel. Like you used to have like all these live games going on at the same time, and somebody going in to all these games, and you get live highlights, live look-ins. I was like, what? Like this just seems like a layup, and you can't tell me MLB struggling for profit.
No.
Like
Pretty
we just
sure
have
the profits are
greatest
like the
credit.
highest they've ever been, right?
Yeah, revenue is greater than it's ever been. Oh, so do you want to like trying to like grow the game of baseball more? Oh, do we have to spend money? Well, yeah. Oh, no.
Like this qualifier is like it is like a rounding error on MLB's bottom line. Like it is not this does not cost that much, and they're still penny pinching.
Yeah, it's I feel like it wouldn't be difficult, and you would do enormous growth in countries. Just imagine we finally get like Uganda against South Africa in a qualifier with all of Uganda's top players. They're like you would actually get people from Africa tuning in, watching live games where they don't even know what baseball is. Like Pan American Games 2023, Brazilians were tuning in and they had no clue how baseball was even working, and they're just like, well, but this is like mini Olympics, so I'm gonna support them. And then they started, you get people asking questions
Yeah.
and getting the game explained to them, and they see some success on the field, and they're just like, okay, well, I want to try this.
Yeah.
It's like it's really not that hard, and that's what just drives me crazy. I feel like it's like a layup because it's a sport that naturally is kind of luck of the draw,
Mhm.
whereas it's not. There's so much luck that factors into it that you can win and upset teams just based on getting some luck happening on your day. Like, if someone exits velocity of 105, that's a line drive double play.
Yeah.
72 mile per hour single, and that brings home a winning run. It's just there's so much luck that plays into it that you can win big even if you don't have the most talent. So it's easier to grow baseball in countries where it's not being looked at like they're going to just get crushed every time they go out there. So I just feel like they're just missing an opportunity, but I can't whine into the void because unfortunately MLB does not value my opinion on this. But it does bother me that like there's some people who see these qualifiers and see there's less teams and like they're just like, oh, okay. I'm just like, what do you mean okay?
It's
Could
not
you
okay.
imagine? You imagine like FIFA qualifiers if they just chopped it in half, there would just be a war overnight.
Right, exactly.
They're just like, yeah, South American country, you guys haven't really had that much success outside of like Brazil and Argentina and Colombia, so we're just not gonna give you a shot. Like Paraguay, like, yeah, we don't really need you guys anymore.
Yeah.
Like people would be freaking out, but in baseball, it's just like, oh, someone responded to me and says, well, they need to earn their qualifier spot. I was like,
They
so let
didn't
me get
earn.
this straight.
How
I
did
was
they
like,
earn it?
Argentina is the reigning South American champs. Okay, define to me what earning it is then.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's just like, why are we running interference for MLB? Like,
Yeah,
how about
exactly.
they just do a better job promoting? But so we should I guess we'll just focus in on the qualifiers. I think the main thing for me is about these qualifiers. I really hope more people actually watch and tune in
Yeah.
because I'm just like, this is like meaningful baseball. It's not spring training, which quite frankly is a total waste of my time.
Yeah.
Like I have no interest in because there's always a guy that hits like 430 and he's going crazy, and then the regular season starts and he's like DFA'd on like May 15th because he's hitting like 170.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's just the level of competition is just not there, and it's just like a sport that like you need like ultra competitiveness, because if it's not, it just feels like I'm watching a men's league game.
Yeah.
It's but I hope more people tune in because these games are going to be pretty fun, and I think it almost makes it more entertaining when there's like most people have no idea who these players are. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. And it's free. It's totally
yeah,
free.
it's on YouTube, but they didn't announce it was on YouTube. They just put it on a little blurb on the qualifier schedule page. Like they
Uh,
didn't make an announcement. It's just on. They just have a little blurb on it, and
I
I was
will be
just like,
sharing the links around as much as I can to as many people as I know.
I will not be posting highlights though, because there's a very real possibility they'll try and suspend my account if I do.
Of course.
Yeah, so like WBSC doesn't really care about that, but WBC does. It's very
Yeah,
much
they gotta get their views.
right. They're just like, how dare you? You're profiting off of it. Well, I'm not, because I'm not earning literally even a
Yeah.
dime from this.
I don't pay for Twitter. I ain't paying for that shit, so I'm not getting
Right?
anything back.
There's that's one thing I always say. If you want me to pay to use an app where I complain, you're asking me way too much. I use it because it's free, not because I like it so much.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I do hope more people tune in, and I hope the next qualifier cycle, we get as many teams as possible and to kind of up the intrigue and get more people interested and watching.
Yeah.
But
I need that Bruce Bochy super like crazy aura fit again for Team
I
France.
mean, I would do like try to put together like a watch party, but unfortunately with Taiwan's games at like 3 in the morning, I feel like my girlfriend would probably have me put down. So I just have to do it in the quiet darkness of my living room. Um, so it's I think it'd be nice to get more people into it, and I'm secretly hoping for like massive upsets on like the first day, just so there's just total chaos. But the sad thing is like it's gonna come and go, and I'll be like, oh, now there's no WBC for like over 365 days.
I'm only 365-ish days away from watching Tom DeBlock walk 5 men again.
That was you really felt like you're part of something special. That was
Yes,
like
how I've missed this.
right. I mean, I remember. I think that game legitimately was like one of the only games I wasn't able to watch.
Really?
Yeah.
I was moving from California to Oklahoma, and I was staying in Santa Fe with relatives like overnight before he continued driving. So I specifically was like, I need to be there at this time to watch it, and so I was watching it in their living room.
It's like you don't know how much I need my support. Like
Yes, yeah.
so it's I'm only 365 days away from the feeling being restored from happiness. Until then, I will be mired in a deep depression.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about me. It's
365 days away from spending like thousands and thousands of dollars to go watch it live.
now I'm already trying to put together a plan to go to Tokyo.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
I
trying to go to
was
Tokyo and then fly back or to go to one of the pools in the Americas. I kind of want to go to the
yeah,
one in Puerto Rico, honestly, over the one in Houston, just because I feel like that's like the biggest sleeper pool. Like no one's
yeah,
really
yeah.
talked about it that much. I'm just like, I don't know, Canada be really good. Same with Puerto Rico, and then Cuba's like just this massive wild card where you just like no clue what they're gonna do.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, my girlfriend's Japanese, so I was considering going to the Japan pool. But I have a ton of Puerto Rican friends through my housemate, and they party crazy, and I kind of want to be part of that too.
Hey, will they talk you into going beach blonde? That's the real question.
Oh,
Team Rubio.
yeah, Team Rubio.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm like. I would not personally dye my hair, but you know, shout out to them for team bonding.
All right. Why don't you? I'm sure people follow you, but just in case, plug your stuff, and we'll wrap this up.
All right. I haven't really posted on it in a while since I've kind of been busy, but I do have a podcast on Spotify, International Talk. I want to kind of get back into that a little bit. And then I'm on Twitter. I tried to call it X for a little bit, but just wasn't vibing with me. Um, so it's International Baseball 24 and International's INTL and then baseball and then 24. I post about literally almost any international tournament in the world, and I show highlights often. And I'm usually one of the few people who's kind of dropping any links I see about roster info, and I break down, you know, I'll break down every team in the qualifier, and I break down an insane amount of info. It's quite frankly, it's probably an addiction, but I'm not looking to seek to help myself from that. So we're just gonna roll with it. And so yeah, so just follow me on there, and I'll do my best to give the people what they want.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, it's always a pleasure. I always enjoy talking ball with you, and I assume we'll be talking ball again very soon once the Pool B rosters finally come out.
All right, sounds good.
All right, people. It's been a good time today. See ya.
I spend all my time on the bench, bitch. What's up?